Medical researcher Zoe Levinson is on board a 2-year space mission to Mars with the company Hyperion. She tries to keep calm as the ship rumbles severely upon liftoff. Mission Commander Marina Barnett talks to ground control and authorizes second-stage separation. Biologist David Kim is the third member of the team. As he nervously looks outside the window to see that the ship has made it out of Earth's atmosphere, Marina looks at graphs on her screen and announces that the main engine is underperforming. She instructs all of them to put their visors on and requests ground control to abort the mission. However, ground control claims that there is enough fuel to handle the engine discrepancy. The ship now starts shaking tremendously as the final burn is initiated. Moments later, they enter orbit and everything becomes silent in the vacuum of space. The crew members observe the absence of gravity and start beaming with joy upon seeing Earth's view from outer space for the very first time. In the distance, Marina notices the MTS-42 spaceship, which will be their guiding vessel for the journey to Mars. She talks to ground control and authorizes their final separation. From their windows, they see their spent rocket separating from their module. The outside view shows the spent rocket standing up horizontally and attaching to the tether as their module also floats closer to the MTS. With expertise and precision, Marina successfully docks her module with the MTS. She instructs the crew members to hang tight as she makes the tethers extend. MTS starts spinning rapidly and Zoe's necklace stops floating because the inertia from the spin is creating artificial gravity. The ship's 450-meter-long tethers start extending as the spinning intensifies, causing David to throw up in a bag. The window panels are finally closed as Marina thanks ground control for a successful takeoff. Zoe gets up and congratulates her while David continues to feel sick. We now see MTS rapidly spinning away from Earth. The extremely long tethers have a bunch of solar panels in the middle. The spent rocket is attached to the opposite end, acting as a counterweight. The crew finally opens the airlock and enters the main hull of the ship, which will be their living space for the next 2 years. David turns on the lights and sees memorabilia from all the previous missions to Mars that have been carried out by the MTS. All of them start unloading the cargo and running initial tests on the equipment. Zoe uncovers the windows on the observation deck and witnesses the surreal sight of Earth in the distance as their ship is spinning away. Later during dinner, the crew engages in light banter, not knowing the unfortunate events that await them. Now that the mission is successfully on its way to Mars, they get dressed for an interview with the people on Earth. They are highly optimistic and share a glimpse of all the research that they will be conducting during the 2-year journey. After the interview, Marina is working when she notices drops of blood on the floor. She unscrews the panel on the ceiling, and an unconscious man almost falls down, leaving her completely stunned. Before she can do anything, the dangling man falls on her arm. This also damages the CDRA, a device that scrubs carbon dioxide from the ship. Zoe and David arrive on the scene. While they're shocked at witnessing a fourth person in the ship, they act quickly and take him to the infirmary. Meanwhile, Marina notices that the CDRA is completely defunct now. They cut his clothes open to stitch his wounds while Marina locks the module to isolate the damage. She also finds the man's ID card while Zoe begins to suture the man's wound. Marina immediately gets on call with Hyperion ground control and shares the details of the damage. She claims that a significant amount of atmospheric CO2 has entered the main hull of the ship, and the CDRA is not functional anymore. A cast is now being created in a 3D printer for Marina's arm. While Zoe treats Marina, the crew starts discussing what to do next. The man's name is Michael Adams. He is a launch support engineer who became an accidental stowaway on the ship. Suddenly, they get a warning that CO2 is up by 2% in the ship. Marina instructs David to use the emergency lithium hydroxide canisters to remove CO2 from the air. He grabs 2 canisters and inserts them into the module, while Marina announces that they have to start conserving resources. They didn't plan this journey for 4 people. Later at night, Michael wakes up and gets confused upon seeing himself inside a spaceship. He is limping around when he makes his way to the observation deck. He starts having a panic attack once he realizes that he is in outer space. Zoe hears him and runs to his rescue. She gets him to sit on the floor and tries to calm him down. She takes him to a different module where the crew finally has their first conversation with Michael. He doesn't remember how he got stuck inside the ship, but he panics even more when the crew claims that they can't go back. He reveals that he's the only caregiver for his younger sister and he can't leave her alone for 2 years. Later, they're having a silent and awkward dinner. Each of them knows deep down that their mission is now in jeopardy. Michael suddenly walks in. They help him sit at the table, while Marina reveals that Hyperion is taking care of his sister and that they have hired a guardian for her. He smiles for the first time, while Marina also gives him some equipment to talk to ground control. They get to know him a bit more and find out that he's actually a pretty chill dude. At night, Zoe and David try to lighten the mood while lying in their bunk beds, even though they are aware that the future of their mission is uncertain. The next day, Zoe gives Michael a proper tour of the MTS and also gives him a safety briefing. The two have an emotional moment at the observation deck upon witnessing the beauty of outer space. Later in David's lab, they're working on the algae samples that David is carrying to Mars for the purpose of food cultivation. Meanwhile, Zoe is seen with an oxygen mask because she is preparing to go inside the damaged module. She puts on her spacesuit and starts inspecting the damage while Marina watches from a window. Zoe takes a picture of the damage, which Marina sees and grows upset. She immediately calls Hyperion and reveals that the damage is critical. She goes through the CDRA repair manual and calls David and Michael for assistance. Now growing visibly nervous, she has a private discussion with David. She asks him how much oxygen his algae can produce if he grows it on the ship instead of growing it on Mars. The extra canisters are not enough for 4 people because they need 950 liters of oxygen per day. He is hesitant at first, but he eventually agrees to grow most of the algae in the ship to meet the oxygen requirements, while reserving some starter culture for the Mars colony. Marina is worried for the future, so she requests David to keep everything a secret from Zoe and Michael, who are now together in spacesuits inside the damaged module. Meanwhile, David goes to his lab and starts preparing the algae for growth. Zoe uses a drill to unscrew the unit, while David prepares an entire shelf of bags with live algae growing in them. They remove the CDRA successfully and take it back with them. Marina immediately starts inspecting it under a light, while Zoe notices that Michael is bleeding from his wound. She treats him when we see that the two of them have noticeable chemistry between them. She gets him to remove his shirt and sees the scarring on his body, but she doesn't ask any questions. The next day, David reveals that his current batch of algae is producing 550 liters of oxygen per day. Marina is delighted to hear this, and she instructs him to thaw out the second batch of algae. He explains that he doesn't have proper equipment on the ship, and using the second batch won't guarantee more oxygen. It will also leave him with nothing to grow on Mars, which is the main purpose of this entire mission. Marina understands his concern, but there are no other options. She reveals that the CDRA is fully cooked, with no chances of fixing it. Now understanding the gravity of the situation, he instantly agrees and goes back to his lab. Feeling angry at losing years of his research, he cuts up the plants to make room for algae. He takes out a petri dish and creates another shelf with bags full of live algae. A while later, Michael has a chance to have a video call with his sister and gives her an update on his life aboard the spaceship. David walks into his lab only to witness that the second batch is dead because of not having proper equipment. While he starts sobbing, Marina is also seen talking to ground control in a state of confusion and anger. She asks them to explore every single possibility of rescuing this mission. After the call, she talks to Zoe and David and now reveals to Zoe that the CDRA is cooked beyond repair. Based on her calculations, the extra canisters have enough oxygen for 2 people to complete the journey. Adding David's algae experiment gives them enough oxygen for 3 people to safely reach Mars. There is no room for Michael on this mission, and keeping him on board will eventually cause all of them to asphyxiate on CO2 and die a few weeks before they reach Mars. They start brainstorming solutions, but Marina announces that she has already gone through all the possible solutions with ground control. There is no other option than to get rid of one person before it's too late. Zoe is extremely shocked at this idea. She asks Marina if they will simply launch Michael into outer space. She negotiates with Marina because she is the commander and her orders will be followed. Marina reluctantly agrees to give Zoe 10 days to find a solution. All of them agree to keep this a secret from Michael, but David seems apprehensive. While the two guys have an awkward dinner together, Marina argues with ground control and gets them to agree to the 10-day plan. Later, David is seen disposing of the dead algae while Marina is working on some equipment. He asks her that 3 days have passed, but no solution has been found. We now see that out of the entire crew, David is secretly tense and impatient because he lost years of his research. Now feeling frustrated, Marina looks over and sees Zoe treating Michael's wound yet again. He ends her curiosity and reveals that he was burnt in an apartment fire, which gave him some scars. He opens up to Zoe, and the two of them start bonding through his stories. Zoe is later seen crying in her bed because she knows they will have to end Michael's life. She asks for 10 days, but deep down, she is hopeless about finding a solution. Meanwhile, David is also pensively staring out of the window. He secretly walks into Zoe's lab and takes out a vial from a cabinet. He walks over to Michael's sleeping area and reveals everything about the current situation, even though they had agreed earlier not to do so. He guilt-trips Michael into believing that everything is his fault and hands him the vial he took from the cabinet earlier. It is a lethal injection for Michael to unalive himself. He tells him that it would be painless, just like falling asleep. As he walks away, Michael begins to cry at the thought of never seeing his sister again. He gets on the floor and caresses the special bracelet made for him by his sister. He then opens the lethal injection but doesn't go through with it. He goes to the observation deck and starts talking to his sister on a video call. He starts saying his final goodbye while all 3 of the members are seen under extreme stress in their separate areas of the ship. Zoe arrives at the observation deck and witnesses the lethal injection right next to Michael. She tells him not to go through with this because she is trying to find a solution. Their friendship grows further as Zoe now opens up about her past and shares some stories. She reassures him that she will not give up on him, so he hands her the lethal injection. Now feeling angry, she walks over to David and starts arguing with him for going against the plan. She accuses him of stealing, but he claims that he is trying to save the mission, which includes Zoe's life also. Each day with Michael on board is a risk not worth taking. He claims he gave up years of his research to make more oxygen for Michael, but Zoe hasn't done anything other than take the moral high ground. She doesn't say anything else and simply walks away. While he instantly starts feeling sad for yelling at her, she goes and starts rummaging through some papers. She then goes to Michael and reveals her insane and highly dangerous plan to save the mission. She demonstrates clamps that have been designed to climb the tethers. She wants Michael to complete a 450-meter spacewalk with her to the other end, where they will retrieve liquid oxygen tanks from their spent rocket. While they practice, he struggles to hold up his weight with the spacesuit on. He gets nervous and keeps slipping while Zoe continues to motivate him. He eventually ends up falling and getting hit in the face. The two of them now sit together, feeling more devastated than ever before. She approaches David and Marina and starts convincing them to climb the tethers. They just look at her and don't utter a single word. She also claims that David will have to climb the tethers with her, since Michael is physically unwell. Marina now learns that David revealed everything to Michael, but she is too drained to react. With his head down, David unenthusiastically claims that he will do it. He pushes the second shelf away to reveal that the first batch of algae is also dead, which is why the two of them were so silent and pensive. Now they only have oxygen for 2 people, and climbing the tethers is their only option left. They get ready for the dangerous expedition while Marina guides them on how to do everything correctly. She needs them to get 2 cylinders worth of liquid oxygen, which will allow all 4 people to safely reach Mars. As they get in their spacesuits, she tells them to keep calm and communicate at all times since they haven't trained for anything like this before. They climb the ladder, and Zoe makes it out of the ship first. She is taken aback by the vast emptiness surrounding her. David walks out moments later while Marina announces through the radio that they are still experiencing the ship's gravity, but as they continue to climb, gravity will keep getting weaker. As they walk towards the tethers, Marina is looking at them from inside the spaceship. Zoe looks up and observes the extreme incline that awaits them, but she doesn't know that things are about to get much worse. They start climbing as we see the ship from a distance, giving us perspective into the heroic task that Zoe and David have committed to. They soon start picking up some speed as the gravity gets weaker, but David stops her and claims that he needs a break due to his motion sickness. They pause for a moment while Marina asks for a status check through the radio. Zoe claims that everything is good, and they resume the climb. They finally reach the zone where they don't need clamps anymore. Zoe folds the clamps and puts them in her suit as they start climbing faster using just their hands. They eventually reach the halfway point at the solar panels. Marina is witnessing everything on her screen inside the ship, and she instructs them to move very slowly. Damaging a solar panel could cause the entire ship to lose power. She starts climbing again while David stays behind for a bit. She tells him to let go, and he floats in outer space for a few moments before she pulls him closer using the ropes that are keeping them connected to the ship. Now having successfully crossed the solar panels, they begin inching closer to the spent rocket. Eventually, they start sliding with speed towards the spent rocket, so Marina instructs them to put the clamps back on. They finally reach the rocket and stand on it because of the artificial gravity. While David starts attaching the ropes to the rocket, Zoe sits down for a moment and stares at the miles of empty space underneath them. He throws down the rope while Zoe takes deep breaths to prepare herself. She eventually starts her descent down the side of the rocket. She bravely goes down and opens the latch to the compartment where the liquid oxygen canisters are stored. Now feeling scared and out of breath, she walks into the rocket with her valve and finds the liquid oxygen pipe. Just as she taps into the line and opens the valve, some of the oxygen starts leaking. With the pressure gauge rising, Zoe announces that she has detected enough oxygen for 1 cylinder. Marina tells her to keep the pressure gauge going. Zoe finally announces that she has detected enough oxygen for their trip to Mars, causing Marina and Michael to rejoice inside the ship. David sends down the first cylinder, which Zoe starts filling up. As the ship continues spinning, Zoe announces that the first cylinder is full. David pulls it up and sends a second cylinder down to be filled. Zoe catches it and starts filling it up as well. Everything seems to be going good, and everyone starts feeling positive about their journey to Mars. Suddenly, an alarm starts blaring throughout the MTS. Marina reveals that an unprecedented solar storm is headed their way. They need to abort the spacewalk and head back to the MTS instantly. David puts down the visor on his helmet while Marina reveals that they only have 20 minutes till they perish in the solar storm. He asks Zoe to hurry back, but she wants a bit more time, claiming that they need the second cylinder to keep Michael alive. However, David asks her to abandon it and head back instantly. Marina also announces on the radio that the radiation will get to them soon and it will be deadly. With no option left, she abandons the second cylinder and starts climbing back up. Once she makes it back up, David clips her to the rope, and they start climbing towards the solar panels using the clamps. Inside the MTS, systems start malfunctioning as another alarm starts to blare. Outside, David reveals that he is losing strength, but Zoe pushes him to keep going. Inside, Michael closes the shutters on the observation deck as they start preparing for the solar storm. They make it to the solar array when David starts falling behind. Zoe takes the oxygen cylinder and starts moving forward to reach MTS in time. With tension now mounting, Their race for survival continues. Zoe soon passes the solar array and starts getting pulled towards MTS by the artificial gravity. On the other hand, David still hasn't crossed the solar array. Inside, yet another alarm goes off, and Marina gets startled. This time, it is the final warning. Zoe starts falling towards the ship uncontrollably and hits MTS with a strong force, causing her to lose the sole oxygen cylinder. She screams in disbelief as she witnesses the cylinder floating away into outer space. David soon reaches the MTS and also witnesses the cylinder floating away. Sorrow takes over him now, knowing that their entire spacewalk was a complete failure. Zoe is also inconsolable, but he helps her get up so they can get inside before the solar storm hits. All four of them sit inside, feeling completely defeated as the debris from the solar storm starts hitting the ship. David finally speaks. He says that they left a perfectly usable cylinder in the rocket. Once the solar storm is over, they can go back to get the cylinder, which will ensure that at least 3 people reach Mars alive. While Marina reveals that the storm will last for hours, Michael claims he will go this time. She simply scoffs at him and tells him he doesn't have the training for this. He might end up losing the second cylinder also. All of them are crying and mentally preparing for their eventual death when Zoe announces that she will make the second trip. She puts on the suit as Marina sobs uncontrollably. Zoe claims that everyone has family members to get back to, except her, so she is willing to risk her life to save the mission. She steps out in the midst of the solar radiation and sees Earth as a small planet far away in the distance. Without sparing any time, she starts ascending the tether once again. She crosses the solar array all by herself and eventually reaches the oxygen cylinder. She retrieves it and starts climbing back up. She slows down for a moment to catch her breath and starts powering through again. This time she lands gently on the MTS using the clamps while the solar storm is still raging on. She looks at Marina inside the ship one last time as her face is being scorched from the radiation. She lowers the oxygen cylinder inside and closes the hatch while she still remains outside. She sits down in her last moments as her breath becomes irregular. With her face getting more scorched with each passing second, the camera pans over to the vast outer space as Zoe's life comes to an end. The audience is left feeling hopeless by Zoe's circumstances, yet inspired by the tenacity of the human spirit. With all odds stacked against her, Zoe found true purpose in saving the lives of the people dearest to her. Her act is a rejection of the cruel arithmetic of survival and a declaration that some choices define us more than life itself. Zoe's final moments linger long after the screen fades to black, serving as a ghostly reminder of the price of kindness in a universe that rarely rewards it. And that is what makes Stowaway so emotionally brutal. Not the death, but the love behind it. To watch more awesome and thought-provoking movie recaps, please subscribe to Film Guy Recaps. Don't forget to like this video and tell us in the comments which movie you want to see next. Goodbye for now.